Clean up that room. How many times has someone told you to clean up your bedroom? If you're like most young people, you've heard this line often and don't really like the chore being suggested. But more likely than not, you eventually get around to cleaning up, at least a little. Usually you start with the clutter that's covering your desk, bed, and floor, right? You gather the crumpled, dirty clothes and toss them into the laundry basket. Since the basket is full, you tote it to the laundry room and put your clothes in the washing machine. You dump detergent into the machine and turn the dial to start the wash cycle. While the machine washes your clothes, you continue with the rest of the cleaning. Back in your room, you continue clearing things away. You pick up school books, magazines, and comic books, put them on shelves or in desk drawers. You toss scraps of paper and snack wrappers into the trash can to be emptied into the plastic bin outside, which the garbage collectors empty once or twice a week. Now that you've cleared the floor, you vacuum the carpet and make sure that it looks immaculate. Next comes the unpleasant roundup of all your dirty dishes. Mugs with crusty old hot chocolate, a glass full of water, and a plate with a pizza crust get taken to the kitchen where you scrub them in hot soapy water with all the elbow grease you can muster. You might even load the dishes into the dishwasher. Now you remember that your mom said it was time to change your sheets. You strip the cotton sheets from your mattress and set them aside for the laundry. Then you replace them with a set of flannel sheets because the weather is supposed to get cold this week. Around your computer, you pick up pens, pencils, and paper clips and return them to their appropriate cubby holes, cups, and trays. You pick up an overturned photograph and set it upright on the computer. Then you wipe all the dusty surfaces with a damp or oiled cloth to make everything shine. That seems like a lot of work, but was it really? Have you ever considered how things used to be? Not when your parents or grandparents were children, but even further back in time. Let's go back to the Middle Ages and imagine you were living in England in the year AD 1150. First of all, your chances of living to be a teenager would be significantly reduced. During the Middle Ages, somewhere between 30 and 50% of all children died before reaching adulthood. If you did live to be a teenager, you would have been over the hill at around 17 or 18 years of age, since the average life expectancy in the Middle Ages was about 33 years. If you were the child of a wealthy landowner or noble, you wouldn't have been responsible for keeping your room clean. Your servants would have done that for you. Most likely, you would have lived in a castle surrounded by a huge wall for protection from various invaders, from outside England or even from within. You and your family would have lived in a central area of the castle called the keep. The rest of the castle grounds would have been full of smaller buildings for servants and animals. Of course, if you were a peasant, and most people were, things wouldn't have been quite as convenient. For starters, you would have lived outside the castle wall in a modest hut. When you were told to clean up your room, you probably could not have avoided cleaning up the whole house, as most dwellings had only one room. You wouldn't have had your own bed either. In fact, if you weren't wealthy, you probably would have shared one bed with your entire family. Your bed would have been made of piles of straw. To stay warm at night, you would have snuggled up with your siblings. The items you picked up from the floor would have been quite different from what's on your floor today. Again, unless you were very wealthy, you would not have owned any books, since the printing press was not even invented until 1440. Until that time, all books were copied by hand, word for word, and most of them were religious books that were kept in monasteries. The floor of your house would have been made from either hard dirt or wood. A dirt floor required lots of sweeping to keep it flat and tidy. Wooden floors were not smooth and clean like they are today. They were rough planks nailed together with awkward gaps between them. If you were wealthy, you might have had some lovely rugs from the Near East, but these would have grown dirty over time, and you could not have taken them to the dryer cleaner for an annual cleaning. To wash your laundry, you would have worked an oily soap into your clothing by hand, beaten the clothes against a rock or other hard surface, rinsed it, and then hung it to dry. Laundering clothes was difficult work, but you wouldn't have done it frequently, even though you only had 1, 2, or 3 different outfits to wear. In the winter, you would have gone barefoot to preserve your shoes for the winter. You would have taken your trash outside, but then there were no plastic bins. You might have buried or burned your trash. Of course, you would not have produced nearly the amount of trash that you produce today. None of the food was contained in plastic wrappers or cardboard boxes that had to be discarded. So instead of sighing or grumbling the next time you must clean your room, remember how much more work you would have done in the Middle Ages. Maybe you'll feel so relieved that you'll volunteer to clean the whole house. 1. In paragraph 8, the phrase over the hill means A. Far along in life, B. Expected to live, C. Reduced in time, D. Beyond a certain distance. 2. Why did so few people own books during the Middle Ages? A. Few houses had room for books. B. Books had not been invented yet. C. Religious books were kept in monasteries. D. Only wealthy people could afford the hand-copied books. 3. Which information belongs in the empty box in the diagram below? Peasant life in the Middle Ages. Blank. Lived in one-room house. Buried or burned trash. Washed clothes by hand. A. Shared bed with siblings. B. Had servants to clean house. C. Lived in central area of castle. D. Owned several sets of clothes. 4. What is the most likely reason that the author wrote this passage? A. To convince readers to clean their rooms. B. To entertain readers with facts about life in the Middle Ages. C. To convince readers that life in the Middle Ages was simpler than life today. D. To compare the life of a young person in the Middle Ages to that of a young person today. 5. Which of the following would be a common occurrence for a peasant teenager during the Middle Ages? A. Living in a castle. B. Sharing a bed with siblings. C. Owning many sets of clothes. D. Having servants to clean the house. 6. In contrast to the cleaning chores today, what did cleaning chores during the Middle Ages require? A. Less time. B. Greater wealth. C. More equipment. D. Greater physical effort. 7. Which word would the author of the passage most likely use to describe how young people today would find life during the Middle Ages? A. Demanding. B. Domestic. C. Fundamental. D. Uncomplicated. 8. If you wanted to learn about cleaning during the Middle Ages, which of the following would probably have the most information? A. An encyclopedia. B. A history textbook. C. A magazine article about castles. D. A book titled Daily Life Through History. 9. Why does the author give information about cleaning a bedroom? A. So the reader will maintain a cleaner and neater bedroom. B. So the reader will do a better job of helping with more household tasks. C. So the reader will feel sorry for the peasants who lived during the Middle Ages. D. So the reader will use the information to compare life today to life during the Middle Ages. 10. Which statements from the passage best supports the author's claim that during the Middle Ages people produced less trash than people do today? A. You would have taken your trash outside, but then there were no plastic bins. B. None of the food was contained in plastic wrappers or cardboard boxes that had to be discarded. C. Laundering clothes was difficult work, but you wouldn't have done it frequently, even though you had only 2 or 3 different outfits to wear. D. You tossed scraps of paper and snack wrappers into the trash can to be emptied into the plastic bin outside, which the garbage collectors empty once or twice a week. 11. Which would be another good title for this passage? A. Difficult work. B. Cleaning now and then. C. How to clean your room. D. Problems of the Middle Ages. 12. Which paragraph gives the reader the most information about life in a castle? A. Paragraph 7. B. paragraph 9, C, paragraph 10, D, paragraph 12.